Hi everyone, I'm Chloe Caldbeck, and today I'll be discussing my podcast, Preventative Playbook. We'll dive into the details shortly, but to give you a quick overview, it's all about sports injury prevention. Let's start with a few basics. My mentor's name is Shauna, and as you might remember, I'm Chloe. I'm coming to you today from Los Altos, California, which is where I live. And over the past 4 months, we've been working hard on a new podcast about sports injury prevention and sports medicine. Our first episode, titled Hoops and Health, focuses on basketball. This podcast will be a series, with each episode dedicated to a different sport. This way, if you play a particular sport, you can tune to the episode that's relevant to you. In each episode, we'll discuss common injuries specific to that sport and offer tips on how to prevent them. Injury prevention is a key aspect of sports medicine, which is the field I'm excited to study in college. My lifelong passion for sports has driven me to research this topic and deepen my understanding of how to keep athletes safe and healthy. I've played multiple sports throughout my life, including 3 in high school. And even though I won't be playing sports in college, I want to stay connected to the field. Combining my interest in medicine with my love for sports, I decided to explore a career in sports medicine. To delve deeper, I created this podcast to share what I've learned. Today, I want to ensure that you've had the opportunity to engage with some of the content from my podcast. Let's start with ACL injuries. The knee comprises of 3 bones, the femur, tibia, and patella. These are connected by ligaments. The collateral ligaments, the MCL and the LCL, stabilize side-to-side movements, while the ACL and PCL manage front-to-back movements. The ACL is particularly known for being prone to tears. So here's the first clip of many of my podcast. Our ACL connects to our femur, which connects to our tibia, and most injuries to the ligament are caused by a lateral rotation, a backwards displacement, or a sideways impact of our knee while the lower leg is in a stable position. This normally happens during sports like skiing, tennis, soccer, football, and what we will be focusing on today, basketball. Fun fact, there are between 100,000 to 200,000 ACL ruptures per year in the US. And what's interesting is that you can live your life with a torn ACL while feeling no pain. But you may have difficulties doing any lateral movements or pivots due to the instability of the knee. For example, you can walk and properly jog in a straight line, but once you need to turn, you will probably have some difficulties. And that's why athletes typically get surgery. Let's hear from Nora, who experienced an ACL tear in June of 2023 and underwent surgery in July. Her insights will give us a real-world perspective on dealing with such an injury. In the podcast, we'll first dive deep into her injury, how it occurred, and the details surrounding it. Next, we'll explore her recovery journey following surgery, and finally, we'll discuss her experiences with physical therapy.
Could you explain to me how, the recovery process went? How many times did you meet with your doctor? How was the pain? And then, obviously, I know a little bit about how long it took before you could touch a basketball, but if you could touch on that too. The recovery. I mean, it was tough at first because it was really, I was really limited. But my doctor, I was going to physical therapy twice a week, almost immediately. And I was meeting with my surgeon doctor. The time between visits increased, and almost there was more and more time between visits. What is it my physical therapy actually? I was on crutches at the very beginning with a brace that locked the leg so I couldn't bend it. And so it just sort of started with slowly getting degrees and bending it. What were some of the stretches you could talk about that you did during physical therapy or before? To get that angle, sort of do quad stretches where you bring your foot to your butt kind of. Hamstring stretches, some quad stretches where you sort of lunge and twist your neck kind of. I didn't do so much stretching. I did some more dynamic warm-ups where it was skips and stuff.
As I mentioned before, this podcast goes over 4 injuries. As we just finished the ACL section, we will now move on to concussions. These are temporary losses of brain function due to impact or whiplash. Concussions vary in severity, from linear fractions to compound fractions, often resulting from forceful blows or rapid head movements. Preventing concussions can be challenging, but if you've had one, ensure complete recovery before returning to sports. Limiting screen time and carefully evaluating your performance can also help. First, if you are an athlete recovering from a concussion, do not return until you are fully healed. It is not worth going back early and risking it. If you sustain another concussion while recovering from the first, you will have more long-term brain damage and effects. So, athletes, you have a decision to make. If you just like playing sports to play it, Maybe choose another sport to play with a lower chance of concussions. However, if you love the sport you play, you need to evaluate your performance and see if there's anything you can do to not participate in or limit the risk. Symptoms from your concussions may affect your balance, coordination, and other skills necessary for staying safe while you practice. Lastly, reducing screen time could help with recovery and reduce the chance of re injury. Next, let's address ankle sprains, which are categorized into three grades based on severity. A grade 1 sprain involves minor ligament stretching, while a grade 3 sprain is a complete tear. To prevent ankle injuries, focusing on strength, balance, and proper training, as well as proper footwear, and consider ankle braces for additional support. To delve deeper into these injuries, their prevention, and the underlying anatomy, we have an insightful interview with Dr. Chike Okafor, who is wrapping up his sports medicine fellowship at Duke University, and also works with the Duke men's basketball team. In this clip, he shares his expert advice on how to avoid ankle injuries and explains the intricate details of ankle anatomy that are crucial for understanding these common yet impactful injuries.
What exercises would you recommend players to do to prevent ankle injuries during a game?
Yeah, so the simple one everybody knows is about the ankle alphabet, doing that to kind of strengthen up some of those external muscles of the foot. In addition to that, working with a good physical therapist and working on your proprioception, because this is something that's really going to help your body to recover and know exactly where your ankle is so you prevent these injuries in the future. So I would say getting in with a good physical therapist and getting a good exercise plan is going to be something that's going to be crucial for somebody that's going to want to return back to higher level sports.
Interesting. Do all the players warm up with stretching before their game?
Resources and more people kind of facilitating and warm up for that. But yes, we're definitely hoping that all our athletes stretch before a game.
Lastly, let's cover jammed fingers, a common injury with varying severity from minor ligaments to complete tears. Proper treatment involves more than just quick fixes. It includes understanding that each finger has three key joints. Unlike broken fingers, which show bruising and deformity, jammed fingers affect soft tissue and can usually be treated at home with rest, ice compression, and elevation, and add protection using splints or buddy wraps. Next, I'm excited to share a clip from my podcast featuring an interview with my friend Tamar. Tamar, who plays basketball, will discuss her personal experience with a broken finger she sustained during a practice scrimmage in 2018.
Could you tell me a little bit about how you broke your finger? What happened?
Yeah, for sure. So it was about 5 years ago. I was in fourth grade, and we were doing a scrimmage during basketball practice. A girl passed me the ball, and it hit my middle finger on my right hand. The ball collided with it, and it pushed my finger back.
Could you explain to me the recovery process, how it went? How often did you meet with your doctor? How was the pain?
My recovery process for the first 4 to 5 weeks, I had to wear a splint, and then for the last 2 weeks of those 4 to 5 weeks, I was able to remove it while I showered. After that, I had cast that you have for your finger, the metal ones, and that just prevented me from bending it. And then after that, tape that just wraps around, it held my middle finger and my ring finger, and it just held it together so I wouldn't bend it.
But
My fingers were functional at that point.
to wrap up, here are some key tips for those playing AAU basketball and juggling multiple games in a day. Proper hydration is crucial, so keeping a water bottle keeping a water bottle and Gatorade handy is important. Try freezing a water bottle the night before for convenience. Prioritize getting enough sleep, avoid playing with jewelry or chewing gum, and wear comfortable, supportive basketball shoes. While a mouth guard is optional, it can be beneficial. Before game, stretching is essential to prevent injuries. Incorporate both dynamic and static stretches. Dynamic stretches, like knee hugs, scoops, and forward lunges, prepare your muscles, while static stretches, such as standing hamstring stretches and calf stretches, help with flexibility. Following these practices will help keep your body in top shape and ready for the demands of intense gameplay. And that brings us to the end of today's presentation. I hope you found the insights from our podcast on sports medicine and injury prevention valuable. From understanding the nuances of common injuries like ankle sprains and jammed fingers to practical tips on hydration, stretching, and recovery, Our goal is to equip you with the knowledge the knowledge to stay healthy and perform at your best. Thank you.